Hello, I'm Darren Magee, and today's topic is the first in a three-part series looking at why people who have been raised in narcissistic families, have narcissistic partners, or are maybe in workplaces or communities dominated by narcissistic people, often end up suppressing or hiding their true capabilities, their skills, talents, even their achievements. So in this video, I'm going to look at how and why people end up hiding certain aspects of themselves, how they end up losing their voice. Next time, I'm going to look at the long-term effects of when people suppress their capabilities. Lastly, I'm going to look at what happens when they begin to find their voice, whenever they begin to shine. So, if you find this topic to be interesting, please consider subscribing. But just to remind you, a narcissist is not just someone who can be difficult to get along with or is selfish from time to time. The common characteristics of narcissism include an inflated sense of superiority and a huge sense of entitlement. There is a constant need for validation and admiration from others. They can be very disagreeable and highly resistant or highly sensitive to criticism. There is also a lack of empathy for other people. And these characteristics would be long-term and pervasive, not just once in a while. So to begin with, in a relationship or an environment or indeed any kind of long-term exposure to narcissistic behaviour, a process of conditioning often begins where people can begin to play down their skills and their talents. Children in narcissistic families may suppress their true feelings, hide their true talents out of fear of perhaps outshining the golden child. This might bring negative reactions from the narcissistic parents and the golden child. Instead, they learn to praise and celebrate others. In adulthood, they may even fear success. In relationships, if someone has a particular skill or talent, now that could well be something the narcissistic person was impressed by at first. They may have been quite encouraging, but after a while, they might begin to ridicule, criticize, even just ignore it. And sooner or later, someone can maybe stop sharing good news about themselves, hide any of their achievements, their talents. They can find it difficult to speak up or speak out when they have to. Because some narcissistic people, they tend to stifle others through constant criticism, anger, outrage, confusion, or low mood. And those around them can come to dread those reactions, so become reluctant to do or say anything that causes contention. They also learn not to question or answer back because when they do, they're often met with anger, circular reasoning, nonsensical logic, sometimes even tears. When they try to reach out, it seems like they never seem to get anywhere, so after a while they stop trying to reason, stop trying to get through to them. And eventually people feel as if their opinions, thoughts, feelings, their needs don't matter. They are conditioned to believe it feels easier not to argue or not to question, even not to ask for anything, when in reality can lead to longer-term problems. But to understand why people can become overly cautious and guarded about their true selves around narcissistic people, remember, narcissists have an inflated sense of superiority. They don't do humility well, so they struggle when others know something they don't or are more accomplished in some area than they are. When their sense of superiority is challenged, this can lead them to be highly critical and judgmental. They belittle and devalue other people's accomplishments and ideas. They dismiss other people's success as luck or accuse them of cheating at something to attack their integrity. Other people's success never really has anything to do with skill or hard work. And long-term exposure to this kind of behavior can lead people to play down or hide any knowledge or talent they may have. For instance, if asked something by a narcissistic person, after a while they might claim they don't know the answer even when they do, just to avoid some kind of contention, criticism, or interrogation. Next, narcissistic people have a strong desire for admiration. They don't like to share the spotlight with others, and they can feel uncomfortable when others excel at something or if they think someone outshines them somehow. This brings out both jealousy and competitiveness in them. Now, it's not necessarily that they increase their efforts. Quite commonly, they exaggerate their own accomplishments while dismissing those of others. If someone succeeds where they fail, they may claim it's due to them being at some kind of unfair disadvantage, or perhaps they were treated unfairly. And in some cases, they may even engage in sabotage, just so that someone else doesn't receive any kind of positive attention. Another key component of narcissism is being envious of others, but also believing others are envious of them. Now, due to their sense of entitlement and superiority, I would add they believe others should be envious of them. This envy often contributes to their low self-esteem. Narcissistic envy can be quite corrosive. They see someone with something they don't have, so they don't want them having it either. They see someone do something they can't, they don't want them being able to do it either. If someone has admirable qualities they don't have, rather than feel inspired to be more like that, they'll find a way to problematize those qualities until the person stops displaying them. Sometimes it's like they only feel good about themselves if they feel better than others, even those closest to them. So some people in narcissistic relationships and environments might fear triggering envy, jealousy, or competition, so choose to downplay their abilities just to avoid conflict, and this can lead them to lose confidence in themselves and their own abilities. Moving on, narcissistic people often seek to dominate and control those around them. Someone displaying a level of intelligence or skill may be seen as a challenge to their authority, and this could lead to a backlash. Again, narcissistic people believe they are superior to others. They are the alpha. So they could fear a shift in the balance of power if someone is recognized for something and they're not. Now, there are times when people in narcissistic relationships can even feel uncomfortable if someone else praises them or mentions their achievements in front of the narcissistic person, because that narcissist might behave as if they're pleased at the time, but later on they show their displeasure, even their vindictiveness, when there's no one else around. Now, another reason why some people may hide their talents or their resources is not necessarily out of fear of criticism, but rather to avoid being exploited. Narcissistic people have a huge sense of entitlement, and they can be quite parasitical. They expect others to do things for them or give them things just because they believe they deserve them. So as much as a narcissistic person might minimize or ridicule someone's skills and talents, they can exploit those talents for their own gain. It's not uncommon, especially in workplaces or community settings, where they get others to utilize their skills and then they claim the credit. So some people may hide their abilities to prevent being taken advantage of or being manipulated by the narcissist in their lives, who just see them as a resource to be exploited. And lastly, the reason why people can feel as if they lose their voice in a narcissistic relationship is because they are continually shut down. They are talked over, laughed at, ignored, insulted, or threatened. Narcissistic people have a very fragile sense of self that is easily bruised. They don't want to hear anything they would consider to be negative about themselves. They might experience what's known as a narcissistic wound. So they reject anything that might challenge that sense of self, anything that could be considered as criticism, even when it's something constructive or helpful. And after a while, people can feel so ground down they stop speaking up. So to summarize, people in narcissistic relationships and environments tend to hide and suppress their qualities and achievements for a variety of reasons, but it usually comes down to trying to avoid the negative reactions they bring up. Now, unless it's publicly or unless there's something in it for them, narcissistic people generally don't celebrate other people's success, even those closest to them. They can be incredibly envious. Regardless of the topic, they always know more about it than you, or know someone who knows more about it than you. And after a while, people can feel so ground down they feign ignorance of certain things rather than engage in a conversation, which always ends up them being judged, insulted, confused, or frustrated. They come to believe it's easier for them to say or do nothing that might elicit a negative response from a narcissistic person, when in reality, it only keeps it going. It only feeds them. They keep good news to themselves. Even something as simple as just having a good day can bring about a negative reaction, so they learn to keep it quiet. And eventually, through a process of constant criticism, gaslighting, and pointless arguments, people begin to doubt their own reality. Now, in the short term, playing down talents may feel easier, but in the long term, the cost, well, that's something I'm going to discuss in the next video. So, that's a brief outline of why some people may hide, even suppress their true skills, knowledge, qualities in narcissistic relationships. But if there's anything I've missed, please feel free to use the comment section. As always, there are some interesting conversations start from these videos. But if you find this topic to be interesting, please consider subscribing, and until next time, thanks for watching.